No, they started attacking me. And once they saw that their attacks on me wasn't working, they started attacking my children. What kind of father am I? Shit. For me to say what kind of father am I doesn't do justice. For you can hear what kind of father am I. You know, I'm always being attacked. I knew something this foolish was going to happen again. So I made a promise to my cub on video, just to let her know what it is. This video right here is just to prove that you are my best friend. So if anything changed, that's your fault and I'm gonna catch you, little nigga. Hi, princess. Hi, princess. Too bright. It's too bright. I had some. I had some. Thank you. Thank you. I had some more. You had some. You had some. You had some. I had some. Mm, 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 mm. I love you, kid. I love you, kid. Um, Say hi, Mom. Say hi, Mom. Say hi, Mom. Say hi, Mom.
Go, crazy girl, go, 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 go.
Mommy is brilliant for making an apron on there. That's what I'm talking about. You gotta eat some icing with that cake, man. Yeah, just eat some icing with that cake. Yummy. Yummy, yummy in the tummy. My family, like, you know what it's like for you to do nothing wrong to your children, you know, your kids, you know, your offspring, and you know what it's like to do nothing wrong to them. And then you got a judge sending out police to your door and the when did all the attacks start? When did this attack start? Because all the attacks, the initial attacks started in the beginning of 2020 when COVID first broke out. And this attack started January 9th of 2023. Charles Jones said, and with an angry face, with a blushed red angry face, he slapped his hands on his desk and said, "Well, since you think you're a moving force, I'm a dead rock, and this is where your parenting is going to end." And I stood up in court and said, "Excuse me?"
You guys are good parents and you can take care of your child. I have no concerns. You guys are good parents and you can take care of your child. I have no concerns.
Stephanie?
You know, it was scary, you know. And then just for CYS to keep screaming in our face, "We know you guys are good parents." Like, it wasn't just one, it was every agent that's not there no more got fired for saying how good and how awesome of parents we are.
You guys are good parents and you can take care of your child. I have no concerns.
You know, my wife in the house, she pregnant. And, you know, Charles Jones sent out not only CYS to try to grab our kids and stop us from going to Superior Court, like, he sent armed, dangerous men to my house to stress out my family. wife that she just turned 1 year old. You feel me? Like it was a nightmare.
What's that? You're not Miss Waddle. You're what? Okay. Do you know your neighbors here? Are they black? Yeah. Are they here? Okay. Black gentleman? You don't know? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we're here for that.
War.
Thank you.
And like that, you screaming out my kid's mother's name. You screaming her name out, and you dress for war. You know, you screaming out. You know, there was times, oh, Miss Twaddle, we need to see your daughter right now. Like, excuse me, like who is you? Like, oh, Stephanie, bring your daughter to the my daughter, my baby girl was 1 year old at the time. And then that day you screaming out my daughter's mother's name, and you think even if she was home, she was gonna come outside. Like,
Stephanie! Police department, come to the door!
meanwhile, like after they left, like the neighbors is showing us their footage of what they got of the police doing. You know, they're circling our house. They're hiding by our trash can. They're hiding by our gate. We got video of them from the neighbor's house with them holding guns, holding like, why are you coming dressed for war for my 1 year old daughter? The police is screaming their mom's name, talking about something. You need to bring your kid outside. Meanwhile, they're holding guns, batons, you know, all these lethal weapons. They're grabbing their pepper spray. Like, excuse me, like how you came here to see my kid and you dressed for war?
Miss Twaddle, we're here to see the baby.
Um, I believe the attack turned up more because we were going to the Superior Court once we found out that we were done. We were just done wrong. We found out we were in legal warfare. Then Charles Jones opened his mouth and said we're in spiritual warfare. And when he said we're in spiritual warfare at the time, I didn't understand. I'm like, is that even law? Like, where do you look up in a law textbook and find spiritual warfare? And the only place you can find definition for or what spiritual warfare really is if you go to church. And Sharon Baptist Church put in perspective what spiritual warfare is. And I like the way they was preaching, and I love the way they was teaching. They got a good pastor there, Pastor Bishop Reed Sr. He teaches a lot about what spiritual warfare is. And after learning, getting to the depths of what spiritual warfare is, like, nah, this can't be happening. Like, everybody that was on that case got fired. Like, anybody who came in there and said something good, that's why he slapped his hands on his desk with the most angriest and most reddest face I've ever seen in my life. He looked at me, slapped his hands on the desk, screaming, "You think you're a moving force? Well, I'm a dead rock, and this is where your parenting ends." And that just took me for a spin. I stood up in court, open court. I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he's all still yelling and going on. And, my lawyer goes to push me out the courtroom saying, well, we can go to Superior Court because clearly you had everything you were supposed to have for your children and then some. He said there was more than enough testimony for your children to have came home to you. You've completed 2 anger management um classes, programs, like I was doing stuff that I didn't even need, but at the time of all this going on, they were projecting on me saying I was something I wasn't, and I was behaving a certain way that I wasn't. And you know when you're in a great war with something that's unexpected and you know nothing about, and you doing everything that the right way, and you still coming up like you're not doing good enough, it's not you necessarily, it's the spiritual warfare that was placed upon you. And, that's when I started to understand spiritual warfare, listening to Pastor Bishop Reed Sr.
Words are powerful, my sisters and my brothers. They carry weight, whether it's negative or positive. They carry weight.
He put a lot of stuff in perspective. And, I want to thank the congregation of Sharon Baptist Church because, like, they're lovely people. They're lovely people.
Quick second, just want to say this to you, that in Psalms 46, we're told there that God is several things. He's a refuge. He's our strength in times when we are weak and in times that we are in trouble. So whenever you find yourself in trouble, don't let it traumatize you to the point that you cannot go to Him. Don't run from Him. That's what trouble oftentimes does for us. That's the time to run to Him.
They treat you like family. They don't forget you. They always come up to you to make sure you're doing okay. And I know everybody be going through something. So, even if they was going through something, they put the church first. And, I appreciate every last one of them. This has been a challenging and hard time for my family. They broke our family down the first time just because they could. They didn't find no harmful substances, no dangerous weapons around my house, and none of that. Kids was always good. They didn't want for nothing. They was happy. You know, when they saw our faces, they light up, they run to us, they don't run from us. You know, so to find out we was in spiritual warfare, it was like, how do you prepare for something like that?
Have you ever found yourself in trouble? And that word trouble in the Hebrew means, Bill, a tight place. Have you ever found your life in a tight place, in a tight situation because of circumstances and situations? Have you ever found yourself in that kind of place? Well, that's the kind of place that God loves to step into. He's a God that does not flee from trouble. He's a God that comes to his people when they are in trouble. I'm so glad that our God is not a fretful, fearful, fraudulent God. He's a faithful, mighty, and strong God. He is able to do what nobody else can do.
You know, how do you compete with something like that? What definition, what law book do you look in to find a way out of something like that? So that was hard. And we found out that the attacks turned up when they found out that we was going to Superior Court. And once they found out we was going to the Superior Court, like, he sent out all types of police to my house, banging on my door. Then he sent them out with child youth services, banging on my door. You know, they surrounded my house. You know, they're popping up. We would go to the laundromat. You know, at this time we didn't have no washer dryer in the house, so we went to the laundromat down the street, and they be sitting outside the laundromat with their sirens on, doing nothing. You know, there was times where they would drive by in the neighborhood, even the neighbors coming to us asking my wife and I, like, are we okay? Do we need to stay at their house for the night? The neighbors will let us know that they recorded. They're also recording the police behavior because they all noticed that every time they drove by our house, like, they would turn the sirens on. They would slow down in front of our house. They would have the lights flashing. You know, my house was between two lights. You know, it was a light at the corner and a light at the corner. My house was like right here, like in the middle somewhat. You know, they get, as soon as you can hear them coming through the light. 'Cause as soon as they come through the light, you know, you hear the siren on. Plus, and then they would slow down in front of our house. Then you just see them bright ass red lights flashing in our living room and whatnot. And then they will ride down to the light. As soon as they got through that light, the sirens was off. You know, our neighbors picked up on that. You know, they started recording our house. You know, our neighbors got hella footage of how they were coming 3, 4, 5, 6 units deep just to traumatize my kid, banging on my door, kicking on my door, knocking my stuff over. You know, the neighbors got them. They will call us and say, um, "Be careful, guys. There's a police officer sitting at your corner." Like, our neighbors knew. Our neighbors knew we were good parents. Like, we was involved with our neighbors. We was going to cookouts. You know, we was having them come over. You know, so our neighbors knew what kind of people we were. They knew we didn't neglect, abuse, or devalue our cubs in any shape, way, shape, or form or manner. Like, they saw how good we were with our family, that, you know, they entrusted us to come around their family. They saw how we reacted around their family and around their kids. And, you know, when they found out that our first 5 kids got taken for what they call spiritual and legal warfare, that the neighbors came together. They started giving us clothes. They started giving us food. You know, our first living room set that we had at 1103 Lehman Street, our first living room set, you know, that came from the neighbors. Like, one of the neighbors was moving out, and she's like, you know what? I was going to take this couch to the new house, but I believe you deserve it. You know, she said she gave me the tables that go with it. She gave me the couch, the tables, the mirrors. Like, she gave me the whole living room set. And, you know, I'm forever grateful. I'm thankful. You know, the neighbor next door to me, like, she had 2 daughters. You know, she would make sure I got in, and from where she would rush me home from work. You know, she would be like, well, I know that there was police at the corner, and there was a lady, and I just want to rush you home to make sure you go home safe to your family, because I know that your wife is in there with your kid, and I know that you could protect them while. Well, if I can help you, get you home fast enough, you know, I know you'll be there to protect your family. You know, I'm thankful for my neighbors. You know, my Dominican neighbors in front of us. You know, you know, they seen everything that was going on the block. So, you know, my Dominican like, hey, yo, Poppy, don't be going out there acting crazy today. You know, I seen one of them fellas sitting out there on the corner. So just be careful while you're out there. You know, the world is a dangerous place. And I'm like, you know, I know that. So, you know, I appreciate my neighbors looking out for me. You know, they always came to our rescue, you know, picked our spirit up, you know. This is crazy. And, you know, the scandal, the cover up, the lies, it really affected my family, and most of all, it affected my Cubs. You know, they lied to my Cubs saying that we don't love them and we giving them up. You know, that's not true. That ain't true, not one bit. And no matter in this lifetime or a million lifetimes that we share together, I wouldn't dare give you up. None of you. Jaliciana, Juliana, Julian, Zayden, Estrella, Violet, Exodus. I wouldn't dare give you up. You all are what makes me whole. You all are what makes me whole.